We share. Oh, take a ride.
My name is Ajiva Lubem, Barnabas. I'm a video director, I'm a cinematographer, and a video editor. I'll be right back to continue my story, but before I come back, I want you to click on the subscription button down below, like this video, and also comment.
Hello, I am Deborah Mado, and I welcome you to Share and Inspire, where we provide you with inspirational solutions to your situations. Now, if you're visiting this channel for the very first time, or you're a regular visitor but you're yet to subscribe, maybe because you think there is a subscription fee attached, or you think that some amount of money will be deducted from your account when you subscribe. Well, I'm here to let you know the truth, which is that there is no such thing as subscription fee. All you need to do is click on that subscribe button below showing subscribe, and you would have subscribed to our channel. Well, we need you to subscribe to our channel so you help our channel grow, just as we help you grow. So kindly click on that subscribe button now, because subscription is free. Share and inspire. True stories, real people.
I was born second child of 4. So I have an elder sister and 2 siblings, a boy and a girl. I had a pretty normal childhood up until the point of realization. You know, when you're a child, there are some things you cannot remember, but from the point I could remember that, you know, I knew myself, that point of realization that you know that you're a human being. I remember we used to live in Benue State, Boko local government, and which is like second to the capital, which is Makurdi. It's like the second busiest local government in Benue State. So my dad lost his job. He used to work in a bank, so I know there was an issue of him borrowing somebody money and the bank not being aware, and then the person refused to pay back and ran away or something like that. And so he and some other people lost their jobs. And so we had to move to Abuja. I was still very young there. I don't think I was up to 10. So we had to move from there to Abuja. And in Abuja, as early as I could remember, my dad constantly kept comparing me with other children. I think that is the foundation of all the problems I had in my life. I think so. Like, I'm like 90% sure that that's like the foundation of most of the problems I had later in life. So I am an introvert normally. So growing up, I was a very quiet child. So my dad kept comparing me to other children that were more outgoing than I was. Right? So he kept saying how children in church join drama unit, and you know, they join the choir, they join the drama unit, they are doing stuff, presenting stuff in church, and I'm just there. So at some point I started to feel like something was actually wrong with me. You know, so he kept verbally abusing me, though he did not feel like he used to verbally abuse me at the time, I'm sure, but I mean, it was verbal abuse. And that was on one side. On the other side, he just never believed anything good could come out of my life. Like, anything he sends me to do something, he will tell me that he knows I will not do it well. You know, anytime I do something, he will say, why can't I do it like this? Look at this other guy, he's doing this. So it was very tiring. We got to a point where wherever I went, I automatically began to compare myself with other children, because my dad made me feel very inferior. And every time I compared myself to other children, I felt very inferior. So I had a very low self-esteem growing up, a very, very low self-esteem. So I grew up like that, and then at some point, my cousin came to stay with us. That's my father's sister's family. So my dad's sister and her children, they came to stay with us at some point. I think I was about between 9 and 10 years old then. So my female cousin who was about 15, between 15 and 17 at the time, she started sexually abusing me. At the time, I was even so young, I didn't really know what sex was. So I didn't even know it was even abuse. So I was kind of enjoying it. So I think that's even what made it worse. So that was also the foundation of my being sexually promiscuous. That sexual abuse by my cousin. And like I said, I didn't even know it was abuse. I didn't even know what sex was. So the whole thing was just very new and interesting to me, right? So it happened for a long time until she left. So at the time she left, it was like she had introduced me to something and then just left. So I had that void. And so I just became promiscuous at a very young age. And at the same time, I was battling low self-esteem. So this happened until we moved from Abuja. We came back to Benue State to stay with my grandparents. At that point, I started having issues with stealing, right? So, and let me back up a bit. The reason why up until this point my parents did not even know anything about the whole sexual abuse and verbal abuse and everything was because there was no relationship at all between my mom or my dad. They were just my parents. My dad was just my father, the one that gave birth to me, the one that pays my school fees, the one that disciplines you when you are wrong, the one that, when they just say daddy's coming, you know what it was. I used to play football when I was younger. I used to be really good at it, but I think he beat the football out of me because everything was just beaten. And he beat us in ways that made me feel like I was adopted because he would beat you as if you and him are age mates and you want to fight. That was the way, images of the thing that just playing him. He used to beat us like a soldier. And he wasn't a soldier, he just had anger issues. I remember when we were staying in Makurdi, I was still young then. His younger brother was staying with us. So his younger brother was a youth then, maybe 20 something, but I was still very young. So it's like my uncle. He was their last born. So he used to be in school. He was living with us. So I don't know what happened, but I know that my uncle spoke back at him and he beat that boy. They had to take him to hospital that night. It was bad. My dad just has anger issues, major anger issues. And I had to work on it because I took that trait from him as well, because me and my younger brother. So all those things went on until I went back to stay with my grandparents because things were very tough for us. Like I said, my dad lost his job. So things became very, very tough for us. My dad used to be very rich. He used to be very rich. I remember when I was younger, I used to play inside all the cars that were inside our compound. Like I just used to jump from one car to another. There were like plenty cars in the house. Our house was like really big, because it was like a bank manager. And then, it was a big deal. So he was really rich. So I think maybe that was one of the things that affected him, that he used to beat us like that or something. I don't know. But, so things became very tough for us. So at some point, we had to go back and live in Benue with my grandparents, my mom, my siblings. My dad, I don't know where he was. I think he was still in Abuja trying to work some things out. So we went to stay there. And at that point in my life, I started battling with stealing. It was crazy. I can't really explain how that one started. I think it was the people I was moving around with then. We needed money for stuff and all. At the point where I was stealing as a child, obviously I was a child, so I wasn't really good at it yet. So I was still, obviously, like I'm the only one that went into this room and there's only one, maybe 100 naira on the table and I would take it. Obviously, I was just a child, so I would take it and it would just be obvious. So my mom had a younger brother that is late now. The guy used to beat me. So like I was really beaten as a child. I would not even say disciplined. I was beaten as a child. So at some point, beating was not really, it wasn't working for me anymore, because I just knew that I knew the worst. Because I'm this kind of person that if I know the worst that can happen, I can decide to do whatever can. I'm usually afraid of the unknown. So if I don't know what you will do, maybe I will not. But on many occasions, I stole and they caught me and they would beat me. And then I just kept stealing. I don't think that was the solution to, because most times a child is doing something and parents don't seem to want to find out why the child is doing that thing. They just want to beat the habits out of the child. Most of the time it does not work that way. So at some point we moved out of my grandparents' house, still in Benue State, but somewhere else. We went to live somewhere else. And the verbal abuse continued. I remember we used to live opposite one hospital then. The verbal abuse continued. My dad would constantly keep comparing me. Then there was this particular boy that lived around us that used to help us do menial jobs. And my dad would always compare me to the boy, like, why can't I do this? Now it's very funny, but then it was not funny at all. And so then when we moved to that place, I was in GS3. So I met these two guys in my class. They were my closest guys then. No, three actually. These three boys, I would say, they're the ones that spoiled my life, because one of them introduced me to porn. There was one day we went to his house and because most times I'll go to school and we'll just leave school and just go and be doing stuff. So there was this day we went to his house and like I said, all of these things happened because, when I was growing up, there was no values instilled in me. There's nothing like knowing that, okay, school is valuable for your life because of, I just had no sense of value whatsoever. I was just a child that was just living his life. I had no sense of values. I had no culture from home. Nothing. There was nothing. I was just like that. So I would go out of school, going around. So there was this day, like I said, we went to this boy's house and we were just chilling. And then the guy said he has something really cool he wants to show me. He now started playing porn, and it was okay. It was the first time I had even seen something like that. So I was surprised. I was quite interesting. So we watched it for about an hour or two, and then I left. And then these other two guys, I used to also go out with them, and they now introduced me to cigarettes. So I started to smoke when I was in like GS3 precisely. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but that's when I started to smoke, GS3. So there was this other guy that lived close to our house then. So I think he was in SS3 and I was in GS3. So that period during and after SSC and JSC, so I was at home and the guy came one day. So me too, I think I collected the porn DVD from this guy in school, brought it home, and this guy now came one day. I'm like, okay, I'm watching something. I decided to watch it together. And he was like, when will I start masturbating? I'm like, what's that? He said, when you watch porn and there's no baby to you masturbate. I'm like, what's that? Because I didn't know what that was. Honestly, I just didn't know what that was. So the guy introduced me to masturbation, and that's how my life just changed completely. So it became a cycle of smoking, pornography, masturbation, and all of that. So my life just changed from then. So there was this day we were going out of school as usual, and then there was my dad just driving past, and he just stopped. I was like, oh, he had one blue car then, and I won that zone. When I saw it, I just knew it was the one. And there was nothing I could do. I was on the road, and it was during school hours, so like I couldn't even give any excuse because I used to be really good liar. But there's nothing I could say, like, where are you going? I didn't say anything. So I was like, okay, since I don't want to go to school, let me enter the car, let's go home. Since I don't want to go to school. And so he took me home, and that was it. I stopped going to school like that. I mean, now that I'm even saying it, I'm just thinking, was that the best way to, deal with the situation and all? But so I just stopped going to school. I stopped. I was just be at home, and I didn't really care because it's not like I even liked the school before, so I just stayed. And so one day, my dad's younger brother, not that one he used to beat Cha, another one that was like after him. That one worked in a bank then. So he came to our house in Benue then, and he asked, am I not going to school? I just looked at the man, I just like, what is so much problem? I just left because I was a really terrible kid. Like, I had no manners. I was just raw. I was just anyhow. So I think he spoke to my mom, and she told him what happened, because my mom could not really do much, because in my house then, my dad's word is law. Whatever he says is what stands. Nobody has a second opinion. And in his house, he's the firstborn. So after his dad passed, his word is law. Whatever he says, that's what happens. So my mom told my uncle what happened. And my uncle had a discussion with my dad and like, okay, let me follow him back to his house in Jos so that they can put me in school there, change of environment and all that. And my dad was like, this one, he won't go to school. Don't waste your money. This one will not go to school. He will not. I left. I didn't even say anything. So I think somehow my uncle was able to convince him, and he took me to Jos, to his family. That was like chapter 2 of my life. Chapter 1 has been, this was like chapter 2. So I went there, and his wife is from Warri, Urobo. So he used to work in Lagos then. His family was in Jos. So he brought me there, made me to take an exam for a private secondary school. I took the exam, I passed. So he was going to pay the school fees and all. And I think that thing upsets. Anyway, not like I think. I feel like, okay, let me just say, I feel like it really upset my auntie, because all these kind of things of your husband is rich and his relatives want to spend this money, all those kind of stuff, because she wasn't even our tribe, like I said, and my uncle was rich then, and my dad had lost his job. So after my dad in the family was him. So it was now like, because before my dad lost his job, it was like everybody was around him. He was paying everybody's school fees, taking care of all his relatives. My mom was cool with that. In fact, we had a lot of my dad's relatives live with us. So I grew up being used to people growing up with us around that. I didn't even know how we were even related. But I think it was different for my uncle. So that thing really upset her, and she started maltreating me a lot. And she treated me very differently from my children. There was even one day, I remember she told me that since I came to the house, her children's behavior has changed. And I was really surprised, because when I came to the house, my male cousin, which was her son, the guy was even doing things I had not even started doing at that time. So I was really shocked. That's why she was even saying that. I remember one particular time, I think I went out and I came back. I think she even locked me out. There are many things she did, from serving me. It was just many things I probably might not want to mention right now. So like, she really, maltreated me. So I felt very much unwanted, because when I said I wanted to go home for holiday, my parents would say no, or let me say my dad would say no, because they did not want me to go and reconnect with the bad boys, in quotes. So it was like they didn't want me there. And in this place, they didn't want me either. So I was just stuck and I felt really unwanted. So somehow I started playing football again. So I used to play ball around the area. And then I met these guys that these were like the first set of people that made me actually feel like they wanted me around, because I was good at playing football. So that even endeared me to them more. And then we started to talk. And because I felt more acceptance, I felt the most acceptance at that time in my life with them. So I started doing the things they were doing. I remember one particular guy that introduced me to smoking weeds. All these people, I know all of them individually, all these people that spoiled my life. So there was this guy that he used to smoke weed a lot and was a really good footballer as well. But so I became very close to him somehow, and that was the guy that introduced me to weed. He taught me how to wrap weed, he taught me the different kinds of weed. He taught me all sorts. So I started smoking weed, and then at that time it helped my low self-esteem, because when I smoked and I was high, I was able to do a lot of things I was not able to do with like my normal eyes. I became more confident, I became more calm. I became more coordinated, kind of, to do the things I wasn't able to do before. And I remember one day I came back home. It was during Christmas time. My uncle was around. So I passed the back door to enter the house, and my auntie was in the kitchen. And she was like, "Where are you coming from?" And my eyes were like red, like really red from smoking weed. I said, like, "Where am I coming from?" I just looked at her and I just walked past her as if, because the way I was looking at her was like I was up there, and it felt like she was looking up to me and asking, "Where are you coming from?" I'm like, who is it? I just walked past her. I went upstairs. My room was upstairs. And then I started hearing, "Honey, Lubem, something." My uncle now came to the room. I was like, "Where did you go?" I said, "I was hanging out with my friends." I think he was just very confused because he saw that my eyes were red and all, but I don't know. I felt, because all these points were points where maybe I could have been redeemed because I hadn't gotten so far. But I think he was just confused and he didn't know what to do, I guess. So he just left me. He left. That was it. Nobody said anything about that thing again. My secondary school there was pretty much the same, lonely. Because I remember many times during visiting day, they will come to visit people. So there was a way our hostel was. If I lie down on the top bunk, I could see the gate, I could see the school compound and everything that was going on. So I saw parents coming for their children, bringing stuff for them, people hugging and all of that, but no one ever came to visit me. It was really painful then. I remember sometimes I would cry, and because of the low self-esteem I had, I wasn't really popular among my classmates like that. I was even bullied by some of my classmates then. So like I had it really rough. I had it really, really rough. So I would just stay there, they would come for people, and then at some point I now developed thick skin to all this stuff. So nobody comes, I don't care. I was just there. So I remember in school, I was in SS1 then. So there was this SS2 babe that really liked me. So it was like we were almost dating. And then the guy that liked her in her class, it was a boarding school. The guy started dealing with me in the hostel, and it was quite funny. So my classmates, my seniors, everybody was just, so it was as if I didn't just have anywhere to just turn. So because of my low self-esteem, it affected everything I was doing. It affected my grades, it affected my relationships with my classmates. I did not have friends in school. at all. I was not even respected in my class at all. I used to play football. I became terrible at it somehow because of my low self-esteem. You know, when you are the cause of the goal, or what will happen that your team will lose when you play a match, and for weeks or for days before the next match the next weekend, they are trolling you. And like I said, I was bullied by some of my classmates, so it was a really terrible place to be in. So that's how I continued SS1, SS2, SS3, and this was side by side everything that was still happening in my uncle's house where I was living, and my parents also not wanting me to come back and stay with them. So I didn't even understand why all of this was happening. So I graduated from SS3. We had our graduation party and everything, and as usual, nobody came. You know, it was there's something we do that is called candle lighting dinner. It was only on that day my elder sister came. She used to work in Jos then, so she came from work straight to the place, and that was like the only time somebody actually came to that school to see me. I even used to come to school on my own. They hardly used to. I can't remember them dropping me in school or coming to pick me from school. So I did everything on my own. So I think I became used to doing things by myself very early in my life, and it affected me later when I started having friends and, you know, relationships. I wasn't used to people doing stuff for me, so I couldn't trust people to do things for me. I did everything by myself. Even up till now, I still try to just let people. I can do stuff for people, but I don't just expect anybody to do anything for me, because I don't know. Nobody really just wanted to do anything for me when I was growing up. So I graduated. I wanted to go to University of Abuja or one of those public universities, and I had a plan that time. It's God that just saved me, because my plan was to go to a university, join a cult, and become a very bad guy. So I had my plan. Then my uncle now comes with, and there's this private university he would want us to attend, and I was very upset, because all through my life up until that point, nobody ever asked me what I wanted, you know. And I think that's one mistake parents make. They just feel like because they are older than their children, every decision they take is good for their children. They never ask their children what they want. I mean, nobody asked me if I wanted to come to Jos. Nobody asked me if I wanted to go to that school. Nobody asked me. Although some of the decisions turned out good for me, like not letting me go to private public school, but at that point it just felt like nobody ever asked me what I want. So my plan was to go and fail that exam. But because I went there with my male cousin, my ego would not let it be that he passed the exam and I didn't pass. So I tried to write the exam well and I passed. And so I went to the private school. 100 level, I wasn't serious at all, because like I said, I grew up having no sense of value. So you would think that in school, for somebody that his uncle is paying his school fees of over 600,000 per semester, you would think I would be the most serious person in school, but I was like the most unserious in my class. I didn't used to go to class, I didn't used to do assignments, I hardly wrote tests. I mean, I was just there. And then I met this other guy in my class, and everything just moved on from there. I used to smoke a lot. I used to smoke a lot more weed then. Because I could not have a normal conversation with someone if I was not high, because my self-esteem had been broken. There was nothing left. So I had to constantly be high. I wake up in the morning, I smoke just to the point where I'm high, but I know what's going on around me, and I go to class. So I was just this very chill, calm. Although I'm calm normally, But then I became calmer. I just became very much calmer. So at that point, it was working for me. So I just let everything, flow like that. So I did 100 level, I did 200 level, and 300 level, I started to not only use this drug, but I started to sell because I saw that not many people could leave school. Not many people were brave enough to leave school to go and buy some of these drugs outside of school. So I would go outside, buy them, come back, and I would sell at least triple the price. So I started having a lot of money in school. I remember buying one phone of about 80,000 then, because I had money. I used to sell all this stuff, and so I really stopped depending on the money my uncle was sending me and all that stuff. And the thing is, people did not know because I didn't used to cause trouble. I was just this very quiet guy, so a lot of people did not know. So I was just very quiet like that. But assignments, class, nothing. So I had a lot of carryovers, obviously. So one of these days I attended one of the carryover classes and a phone got missing when I left because it's not my class. Immediately the class is over, I just walk out, I step out, I don't even talk to anybody. So that's how it was. So immediately the class was over, I stepped out and the phone got missing. And then obviously it was as if I took the phone. So somebody reported to the school authority and I was called and interrogations began and somehow drug test was conducted and they found out I was using drugs. I was using everything apart from cocaine, and that was because I knew that I could not afford cocaine. I had seen people that were using cocaine that didn't have money, so I didn't like because I used to go to the bunk where they sell all of this stuff and I see people bring their car keys, they bring their wives' gold, jewelry just to get, they call it curing. So there's cocaine and I can't remember the name now, but they mix it with crack, and all that. So they did. So I saw people that did not have money. Cocaine is for people that have money, those that are really addicted to it and they have money. It doesn't show like that, but when somebody is broke, so me and my guys just decided that one is not for us yet. I even had a plan of, because when I thought about my future after school, it was just dark. I could not see any future. When I thought of it, it was just black in my mind. I couldn't see anything. At this point in 300 level, I had started learning how to do video editing, but it didn't seem like something that had a future, so my own plan was to, okay, when I leave here, I know that the headquarters of drugs and all those things is Mexico, so I'll go to Mexico and join some of these cartels and maybe I probably would have been dead by now because but that was my plan. So back to the interrogation, everything, and drug test was conducted and they found I was using drugs and everything. So somehow, instead of just expelling me, the school proposed, okay, no, they actually expelled me. But instead of just expelling me and letting me go, normally they just expel you and you just go, find your way. So the chaplain actually suggested that there's this place that they help people with drug problems and all. And at that point, that was the first time my dad or anybody will come to that school to look for me, or that was the first time my dad actually came to the school, because I think he had to sign something or something, I don't know. So we went to the chaplain's office, and so he now recommended CADAM, Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministries, so that if I want to go, they help people with issues like this. And At that point in my life, I was tired. I was tired because the whole thing was like a cycle. Drugs, sex. I get high, I have sex, I steal, I sell it, I make money, I sell drugs. So that was just this cycle for me. I remember one time I tried to stop using drugs. Like I was tired, so I'm like, okay, I'm not doing it again. So I felt sick. And it was like all the drugs I was taking were not working. And my guy just told me that, you know what is wrong with you, like, you know what. And when I smoked weed, I was good in no time. I was okay. There was one time I smoked and I was so high. In fact, when I sat down there, my mind just told me that if I take one more puff of this weed again, I'm going to run mad. It was like my mind said that into me. And I just stood up and I was going back to school. And as I was going, it was like, the line between being sane and being insane, I think it's just very, very slim. Because I could feel myself going insane and my mind would say to me, you are mad now. Take off your clothes and start shouting, you are mad now. And then I just switch back to, I'm not mad. So I stopped the bike and I'm sure the guy could see that I was high. I said, okay, I'm going to school. And in my mind, I just kept saying, God, if you save me from this one, I'm not going to smoke again. I'm sure God was just looking at me like that. This guy is not serious. So I got to the school gates. I got into a bus going to the hostel, and it was like I just kept switching from that part of my mind saying, you are mad now. Now you are mad. You're a mad person. And then it just switched back to, okay, no, I'm not mad. I'm okay. And my classmate was in the bus, and I was like, how far? I didn't answer because. So I went to one shop close to the hostel. So they used to say if you take carbonated drink, like if you take it at a go, maybe the high will reduce and all. I tried that, it didn't work. So I went into my room and I locked the door and tied my hand somehow on the bunk and threw the key somewhere that, I don't know, I just threw the key somewhere so that in case I run mad in my sleep, I won't just go out and just sleep. It was funny. So I just tied my hand on the bunk and I slept. And I woke up, I'm like, oh, I'm okay. So I untied myself. I started to look for the key. I found the key, and the very next day I was back smoking. So that's what addiction does. See, you know that this thing is wrong, but you just don't have any other option but to just do this thing. You want out, but it's like, because people that have not dealt with addiction, sometimes the way they look down on people that are drug addicts, it makes me laugh, because if anybody has dealt with any form of addiction, and it's not only drug addiction, it can be addiction to alcohol, it can be addiction to, some people are addicted to sports betting. They've lost money, they've lost their job, they've lost their cars, but still, there's this thing about addiction that just makes it feel like this one, if you bet this one, you will win. This one. Because for drugs, there's no cap to how high you can get. If you used to smoke, for example, 15 wraps of weed to get high, to reach your highest high, after a while, 15 won't do it again. It now has to be 20. After a while, 20 will not do it again. It has to be more. So that's how it is. You just keep going deeper and deeper until you die, actually. That's when the addiction will just stop. So so it's not like I did not know that this thing I'm doing was wrong, but there was just no other way out of everything that was going on in my life. I felt unaccepted. I felt very inferior to everybody. I felt lonely. I felt anger. I felt anger at my dad, at my parents, at my auntie, at my uncle. I felt anger against everybody. I was clueless as to what to do in life, but it was like when I smoked, I just had this temporary peace of mind, sort of, and I was able to do things like other people were doing. It was like something was just wrong with me. After my expulsion, my dad took the advice of the chaplain, and we went to his friend's house somewhere in Lagos. So we went there to stay for a few days, and those few days I didn't smoke, and I started having what is called withdrawal symptoms. When you stop to smoke for a while, I felt sick. And my dad looked at me one day. He thought I was sleeping. I think he was talking to my mom. He said that the way he's looking at me now, I'll soon die. The way he's just looking at me, because it was that bad. I felt really sick, and that was because I had not smoked in like close to a week. So we went to Kadam, and they took me to their place in Ekpe. So I went to Ekpe, but before I went there, I just decided that, I'm tired of this life. Whatever they are doing there, I would just do, because I didn't want to go home to face my mom, first of all, because I know she will cry, and because I know that when I was expelled, she called me and asked me that why couldn't I talk to her. I was going through all of this and I couldn't talk to her. But I feel like I was talking all this while, but they weren't just listening. They were hearing me, but they were not listening to me, right? So they would have been able to decode some of this stuff, So I went there, and in fact, later I got to know that majority of the staff there felt like I would leave, because they told me immediately I walked into that place, they just looked at me and like, this one will not finish this program, because the place it's not a place that had high fences and it's locked. It's just a place. Okay, now it has fences, right? But then it did not have any fence. But now it has fences, but the gate is not locked. So you can actually leave whenever you want. It's a free program. It's free. So you can leave whenever you want, as long as you sign the document that, okay, you are leaving, you are no longer in their care. People leave, people that can't cope, because the program is supposed to be 1 year, 6 months of withdrawing and balancing yourself, and then another 6 months of balancing still, but majorly learning a hand trade too, because most drug addicts, some of them drop out from school, they don't have jobs, so they use the other 6 months to teach them things like soap making, fashion designing, video editing, cinematography, photography, graphic design, many of all those things, so that they don't fall back to it when they go out, because they don't have a job and stuff. So they just felt like I would leave at some point, because I'm sure I didn't look like I was going to stay. So I got there, the sickness became worse. For me, at some point, I thought I was going to die. So I just asked one of the staff, because prior to that time, they had been running Kadam for close to 22 years or so. So I asked that, has anybody in this place actually died from withdrawal symptoms? They said no. I'm like, okay, I can't be the first to die. Like I told you once, I know the worst that can happen. So if they had said yes, I'd be like, okay, the worst that can happen is that I will die. But when they said no, I'm like, okay, I can't be the first person that will die in this place from withdrawal. So I stayed. And then it got better after a few weeks, like 2 weeks. It got better. So what they did there was majorly, okay, in summary, what they do there is they take away the drugs from you and give you Jesus, give you salvation. And they told us that the only way you can relapse back into drugs is when you backslide in your faith in God. So like if you backslide, obviously there's a space that they have filled. So if you take out God, drugs can now come back in. And really, most people that have relapsed, that have sinned, that's what happened. They stop going to church, they stop praying, they stop doing godly stuff, and then before you know, everything just comes back. So we did more of therapy. So they don't use any drug there to do whatsoever. They do therapy, plenty night vigils, plenty praying, plenty fasting, plenty classes, therapy, a lot of all that stuff. But like I said, one of the things that helped me to get help from them was that I wanted to leave drugs. So that's a major step for anybody that wants to leave drugs. Major step. You must really want to leave it. I met some people there that did not really want to leave it. Maybe they were into drugs and their parents are rich and they say, okay, if you can stop this drug, I will take you to London and all this kind of stuff. So but they don't really want to stop. It just makes the whole thing worse, So if you really don't want to stop, they can't help you. So I was there for 6 months. So like I said, there are 2 phases. I was there for 6 months, and then all my plans then was, okay, I will have to go out, start 100 level again, and all that long story. But somehow, Kadam reached out to my school, and they were willing to take me back because I had already gotten into 400 level first semester before I got expelled. So they came and we had a discussion, many things, and then they decided to take me back to school to continue my program from 400 level, which prior to that time had never ever happened in the history of that school. They expel somebody, the person's gone, right? So they took me back there, and they now had kind of like an arrangement with the rehab that when people are caught in drugs, so you have 2 options. Either you go to the rehab for 1 year and come back to school, or you go. Surprisingly, many people didn't used to take that option. Some parents will say, no, my child is not into drugs, you take the child and go. Some people go for the program, they come back, they are changed. Some they go and come back, they don't change. But I think they recorded more successes than failures, right? So that's how that arrangement started in that school. Until now, they are still doing that program. So that's how it was in Kadam. I gave my life to Christ, that I can vividly remember, okay, this is where I gave my life to Christ. It was there. It was, in fact, that 1 year for me is like the most important 1 year of my life because it changed everything for me. It was like my life was going in a very, very different direction. But that 1 year, my mom told me later that when I was in the rehab, she was praying and asking God, like, why do I have to lose 1 year? And she told me that the Holy Spirit told her that I just gained 1 year. I didn't lose 1 year. Right? So a lot of things happened to me at that time that I became very convinced that nothing just happens to me by mistake, because it was like everything was arranged in a way that God just wanted it to work. So after that, I left. I went back to school. I finished my program. I went to NYSC. One of the ways I help myself is the kind of friends I keep, the kind of circle I keep. So at that point, the people around me, it was very difficult to ask any of them anything about anything drug or weed or anything, because the kind of people I had around me. I had joined NCCF, which is like Nigerian Corpers Christian Fellowship, something like that, or Christian Corpers Fellowship. So I had joined them. So all the people around me were NCCF people, all my friends around me, and those that were not even NCCF knew me as church boy. So it would be weird for them to see. So like I had put those things around me, and then I had found things to do. So I went back into playing football really actively. So everybody in my NYC knew me that I used to play football. So, but that thing affected my football. It affected I was crashing. It was really, really bad. But somehow I was just able to scale through because of my relationship with God and, of course, those things I had put. There were places I didn't used to go. There were people I didn't used to hang around with because of the things they said and everything. So ideally, that's how God just used Kadam, to bring me out of drugs. And this is about 9-10 years now, clean, and I'm still going. After Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministries, I came back to school to continue my 400 level, and that is where I met my wife. She was in the 200 level student, and I was in 400 level. So I had plenty carryovers I needed to cover up for, and so I came to the class. I had the 200 level carryover course I was doing, and she was auditing the course. That's why I said that a lot of things happened to me, as if they were planned by God, because she was not really supposed to take that course. She was going to audit the course. That's, you attend the class, but you won't write tests, you won't write exam, you won't do anything, you just audit the course. And that was how we met. And we were just friends. We just used to talk then. And one thing led to another. Although she was crushing on me, she never agrees she used to crush on me. She said that she just said I was good looking. Please, what's that? But like I said, we were just friends because she was really decent in school. She didn't want any relationship. She was what the students that time would call SU. So she was that type of girl. But after school, we got closer, and the rest, like they say, is history.